Hi, I'd like to thank you for joining us at Prescott E-News and Prescott Talks. Today we've got a very special guest. Senator Warren Petersen is joining us. He's running for Attorney General, and it's nice to be able to have this time to chat with him. Thank you for joining us today, Senator.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, we wanted to talk to you about a few things because I'm sure most of our listeners are not very fluent on a lot of the issues that are facing the Attorney General's office and Arizona and how it affects them. So I'm thinking that this is a good opportunity for us to get that straight from your mouth.
Sure.
Since, you know, you've been president, you've had to take on quite a few issues that concern the AG's office.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm going to just say this right out of the gate. Why is it that I keep hearing that you're already the Attorney General de facto?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking me that question. Thanks for having me on the show. The reason why people have said that is because Arizona has a law that allows the Senate president to have standing in situations where the Attorney General will not defend the law. So consequently, I'm currently have been involved in over 80 lawsuits because we have an Attorney General who won't defend our laws. Now, there's not time on the show to talk about all 80, but I can certainly, drill down on a few of those.
Well,
if you guys would like to hear about some of those.
I'm sure we'd definitely like to know about at least the top 3 that you've had to deal with. I mean, why are those so relevant and why are you having to take those on? Are they that consequential to Arizonans?
Yeah, all of these cases are important. I'll tell you about some of the ones that have been a little more higher profile that people may have heard about. First of all, a few years ago, we passed the Save Women's Sports Act, very straightforward. Only girls can play in girls' sports. That was signed by Governor Ducey. Fast forward to today, a couple sued against the law and to strike down the law. And Chris Mays would not defend the law. So I stepped in, we intervened, I defended the law, spent all day in deposition. In fact, what's interesting, if you Google Jane Doe versus Warren Petersen, what you'll see is that this is a case that is now sitting in front of the U.S. Supreme Court right now. So businesses here, if they have these large trucks, they have to electrify their fleet or electrify their trucks to do business with them. I sued. Chris Mays did not get involved with that. I sued. We won. Arizona is safe from businesses are safe from having to electrify their trucks.
Well, I'd say that's something that we can be pretty proud of. I know a lot of truckers, and they would definitely be very proud of that for sure. So why is there all this? Didn't she sue you as well?
Yeah, so we've been sued by the Attorney General's office. It's no secret we haven't been happy with a lot of the things she's doing. So we actually used some of her funding or took some of her funding from her. She litigated because we took her funding. She sued. She lost. In fact, she had to pay $40,000 in attorney's fees because she was so wrong on that issue.
Yeah. Well, I know that one thing is certain. There's a lot of law enforcement that are very, very happy to have you running for Attorney General, considering that didn't you recently take on the consent decree that was hanging over their heads? Weren't you in Washington for that?
Yeah. So actually, the city of Phoenix, as many people may know, it was had a report, and they were under threat of being entered into a consent decree, where basically the federal government comes in and just runs everything. So what I did was I actually met with Pam Bondi's office, raised the issue. I sent a letter to Harmeet Dillon. And I also met with the U.S. District Attorney. So this is kind of all 3 layers, all 3 levels. Wanted to make sure it was on their radar. I was very confident if it just got prominently placed in front of the Trump administration, they would do the right thing. They did the right thing. They rescinded the report. Phoenix is safe from being controlled by the federal government, and morale is up. They weren't able to They were having problems getting a police chief. They had a police chief resign. Now people actually want to be a police chief. People want to be police officers. So I can't, of course, there were a lot of people pushing for this, but I definitely played a role in, raising the issue, making the request that it be rescinded, and ultimately the Trump administration did rescind it.
Well, it's been a long time since people in elected office have gone to bat for law enforcement, and I actually got a phone call from one of the unions saying that they wanted to thank you in person for all that you did. So I guess that would be a big win. What about the issue that you're going to be taking on with immigration? Are you upholding President Trump's direction on that?
Yeah. Right now we have an attorney general who's fighting against the president, fighting against his directive, litigating against the president. She investigated the president for using his First Amendment rights. She dropped it because it was an absolutely ridiculous claim. It will be 180% different because I will be working like I have in the Senate with the Trump administration, helping them advance their agenda, helping to keep Arizona safe. A.G. Mays is just another example of how dangerous she is. She was giving out legal advice of how when you would know whether a search warrant is needed or not by ICE. So essentially, what that is code for is she's helping people evade.
Right.
She's smooth about it, but she's helping people evade, prosecution, or she's helping people evade being here illegally.
So something a little bit more closer to what you're taking on right now. Your opponent in the primary, has he done any of these steps? Has he taken on anything that would help Arizonans at this point, or has he gone up against anybody on any of these issues to support Arizona?
Well, not that I'm aware of. I mean, my opponent was a Democrat. He's run 6 times, lost 6 times. He's been running nonstop for 14 years, spent millions of dollars on races of, family money. And he's switched to Republican, but after he was Republican, he donated to Democrats. So, no, he's not been doing this. And not only has he not been doing this, people are very suspect of his motives and his sincerity and being willing to, move a conservative agenda forward.
Well, I am very familiar with his stance with Grijalva in Tucson. I was in Tucson for quite some time, and he was very progressive left and looked at Grijalva as his mentor and hero. So yeah. It's hard to understand how at a point in time when we need someone that is really going to fight for our state and to keep us from falling into a sort of liberal progressive avenue.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I've heard people, they're very concerned about that. I mean, it's one thing to be President Trump it's one thing for some people to be a Democrat and then change Republican who were business people or living in an all Democrat state. It's another thing when you're living in a Republican state, but you're Raul Grijalva's aide for 4 years. He's one of the most liberal congressmen ever. And as an aide, you're literally helping carry out a very liberal agenda. That's very different than somebody who said, oh, my parents were Democrat and, oh, wow, I got educated and I saw the light. This is someone who's gotten educated and they're carrying out a liberal agenda. So, yeah, a lot of people are worried about that.
And how long,
for good reason.
Have you been a Republican?
I've been a lifelong Republican. I've always voted Republican. I've never missed an election. I have voted in every single election in my life. And, I have never donated to Democrats. And so I've always just donated and helped and supported Republicans.
So kind of to switch gears just a moment, how have you felt when you were elected as Senate President unanimously? And how has that been overseeing all these senators and legislation and taking on a lot of what the AG has not done. How has that been for you? That's like
our job and her job.
Right.
So especially in the constitutional venue, defending states' rights, those kinds of things. I pretty much just set up a little Solicitor General's office in the Senate, and we've actually reduced our budget. So I've reduced spending in the Senate, but at the meantime, we've also been filling in the gaps where the AG has not been defending our laws. It's been very rewarding to know that we've been able to be there. Thank goodness for a legislature that had the foresight to give the Senate president standing. Otherwise, all of these 80 issues that we have been involved with, and I can tell you she does not like it, all of these 80 issues that we are involved with, we wouldn't be able to protect Arizona the way that we've been able to.
Well, it's kind of sad because not a lot of that has gotten out to the general public, that those elements have really been taken on by you and managed already when the AG has dropped that. So on another note, what do you plan as your top platforms?
Yeah.
Now that you're already doing some things, what do you plan on making as your top platforms?
Yeah, it's a lot like what President Trump has done at the border. You just need to do your job. And she's not focused on the right things. I'm going to take all the priority and focus to what the AG should be doing. We're going to fight crime. We're going to eliminate government corruption. And we are going to defend the Constitution. That's what the Attorney General should be doing. In law enforcement, it's always about resources. There's never enough resources. So priorities really do matter. Her priorities are environmentalism, and that means that other areas are suffering. I'm going to make sure that the areas that the AG is supposed to be in, principally crime, Constitution, eliminating government corruption, that's where the attention needs to be going. And so Arizonans are going to feel the difference. We're going to be making sure we're not drifting to California, becoming a dangerous state and unsafe. We're going to make sure that we're not harassing and harming small business owners. We're going to make sure that we protect Arizona's, keep Arizona safe, and make sure that Arizona remains a prosperous place.
Senator Petersen, what would you say if I were to just ask you, what would you say would be your biggest wins that you've had?
Yeah.
Like if I'm standing in an elevator with you and I wanted to know you in 30 seconds, you don't have to condense it that way. But what would you say would be the biggest wins that would convince me that you're the right man for this position and not your opponent or the current AG?
Yeah. Well, what's great is everyone has my record. So I've been there for 13 years. And there's watchdogs that look at the Capitol and they do scorecards. And so if you look at the last 13 years, what you'll see is that I'm either number 1, number 2, or number 3 out of 90 legislators ranked as the most conservative. In fact, this session, they just came out with the scorecards. I got ranked number 1 out of 90 by the Arizona Republican Assembly. So the advantage is they can look at and see my record. If they align with me and that's what they like, if they're conservative, then they can support me. I've passed hundreds of laws. I've authored, sponsored, co-sponsored hundreds of laws and passed hundreds of laws into bills. Some of obviously can't go through all of those, but some of those I'll share with you that I thought were really important. First of all, I banned sex changes on minors. That was a law I passed. When I came to the legislature, I thought the pension for politicians was insane. So I co-sponsored a bill to eliminate pensions. So politicians no longer receive pensions in the state of Arizona. And when they asked me if I wanted to take the pension, because it was optional for me, I was grandfathered, I said no. I refused the pension. I passed universal licensing. Universal licensing is a means whereby people can get their permits and their licenses faster.
Oh, that's nice.
I also passed a bill. I'm the only legislator that I know that has doged and eliminated a state agency. So that was something I did. That was a lot of fun.
It's a good one.
But it's all out there. People can go and check my record. If you want somebody who's been consistently conservative for 13 years, then I'm your guy.
You're the guy. So I know it might be a little bit early, but do you have any significant endorsements that might show people that there are others who are behind you on this?
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. We're absolutely dominating in the endorsements. I'm endorsed by former prosecutor and Congressman Andy Biggs. I'm endorsed by Attorney General Derek Brown. I've been endorsed by America's toughest sheriff. Everybody knows who that is, Sheriff Arpaio. Endorsed by Sheriff Teeple. I'm also endorsed by county prosecutors. County Prosecutor Miller, County Prosecutor Bennett, the legal community, lawyers, attorneys, lots of endorsements there. They've told me, that's really what recruited me to run. They've said, Warren, you've got to save the AG's office.
That's very admirable. Thank you so much, Senate President Warren Petersen, for joining us today at Prescott E-News. We appreciate the time you've given us, and we hope that you will come back and visit us again. And we would like to ask everyone to join you, and how can they do that?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. This has been great. It's so beautiful up here. The event earlier, great people here in Prescott. If people want to help or learn more, they can go to my website. It's petersenforag.com, and my name is spelled with an E, so it's petersenforag.com.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us on Prescott E-News. We are so happy to have Senate President Warren Petersen here, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk with him again, and then again as the new Attorney General. So thank you again for joining us at Prescott Talks and Prescott E-News. Tune in anytime.